You've been riding for 3 days. The wind burns your face. Your legs ache. Dust clings to your clothes. Somewhere ahead, beyond the rolling grasslands, an enemy city is preparing for war. The people inside believe they have time. They think the Mongols are still weeks away. They're wrong. By tomorrow, you'll be outside their walls. And that's the terrifying thing about being a Mongol horse archer. Nobody ever expects you to arrive this quickly. Welcome to battle lore. Today, you're not a king, a general, or a famous conqueror. You're an ordinary Mongol horse archer, living during the rise of the largest land empire in human history. This is your life, and it begins long before the battlefield. You wake before sunrise. The air is cold enough to sting your lungs. You pull on a heavy wool coat called a deal and step out into the dark. Your home isn't a castle or a permanent village. It's a circular felt tent known as a ger. Everything your family owns can be packed up and carried away in a single morning because, on the Mongolian steppe, movement is life. The grasslands stretch farther than the eye can see. No forests, no walls, no cities. Just open land and endless sky. To outsiders, it seems empty. To you, it's home. Your family survives on its animals. Horses, sheep, goats, cattle. Every one of them matters. Without them, you don't eat. Without them, you don't travel. Without them, you die. Before you've even finished breakfast, you're already working. A loose horse has to be caught. A herd needs watching. Animals need water. There is no such thing as a lazy day on the steppe. Everyone contributes. Even children, especially children. In fact, by the time many European children are learning their first chores, Mongol children are already skilled riders. You learned to sit a horse almost as soon as you learned to walk. Falling off wasn't unusual. Staying off was. The horse isn't simply transportation. It's an extension of your own body. You spend so much time in the saddle that walking long distances can feel strange. Foreign travelers would later swear the Mongols were practically born on horseback. And honestly, they weren't far wrong. Breakfast arrives. If you're imagining warm bread, fruit, or vegetables, think again. The steppe doesn't offer such luxuries. Your meal comes from the animals around you. Dried meat, hard cheese, curds, and animal fat. And, most famously, fermented mare's milk called airag. To an outsider, the taste is a shock. To you, it's just breakfast. Everything about this life revolves around survival. Food has to last. Food has to travel. Food has to fuel a body that works from dawn until dark. But today is different. Today, you train with the bow. And this is where an ordinary herder becomes something the world has learned to fear. Plenty of cultures produce skilled warriors. Very few produce anything like a Mongol horse archer. You swing up onto your horse and ride out across open ground. A target waits in the distance. The horse builds speed. The earth blurs beneath its hooves. Most people can barely hit a target standing still. You're expected to hit one at a full gallop, then another, then another. Here's the part most people never picture. You don't pull the string with your fingers. You draw it with your thumb, locked behind a ring of bone or horn, a technique that lets you shoot faster and hit harder. And you learn to release. In the half-second when all four of the horse's hooves leave the ground, the one heartbeat, the saddle goes still beneath you. Loose your arrow then, and the gallop barely touches your aim. Your weapon is the composite bow. At first glance, it doesn't look like much. It's shorter than the bows used in many other lands, but appearances lie. Built in layers from wood, horn, and sinew, it stores a punishing amount of power in a small frame. It can drive an arrow through armor and strike targets at distances that seem impossible. And, above all, it can be fired from the back of a moving horse. That single ability changes everything. For most of history, warriors fought face to face. A Mongol horse archer kills his enemy long before that enemy ever gets close enough to swing back. That advantage wins battles, and, in time, it wins empires. But skill alone doesn't make a Mongol warrior. Endurance does. A campaign can begin with almost no warning. One day, you're tending the herd. The next, you're riding toward a war that may carry you 1,000 miles from home. The army gathers fast. Orders ripple across the steppe. Horses are readied. Supplies are packed. Families say their goodbyes. Then the march begins. Except march is the wrong word. Most armies walk. You ride. And you ride far. Very far. A typical medieval army might cover 10 or 15 miles in a day. A Mongol force can travel 2, 3, even 4 times that. The secret isn't faster horses, it's more of them. Each warrior brings a string of mounts. When one tires, you switch to a fresh one, then another. While your enemy wears out a single exhausted horse, you always have one with strength to spare. This is why entire kingdoms are caught flat-footed. Cities wake up believing they're safe, only to find Mongol scouts already watching from the hills. Speed itself becomes a weapon. If you're enjoying riding alongside this army, take a second to subscribe. Battle lore drops you inside history's deadliest moments, not just next to them. But war is never as glorious as the songs make it sound. The steppe can be merciless. Rain turns a camp into a swamp. Winter freezes any skin you leave exposed. Summer heat drains the strength right out of you. Some days bring almost no food. Some nights bring almost no sleep. And sometimes the enemy isn't another army at all. Sometimes it's the land itself. And still, the Mongols keep moving. Forward. Always forward. Eventually the scouts return with news. An enemy force has been found. The mood shifts in an instant. Conversations grow short. Weapons are inspected. Horses are checked. Everyone knows what comes next. Battle. As dawn breaks, you ride into position. Across the field, the enemy forms its ranks. They outnumber you. That's nothing unusual. In fact, Mongol commanders often preferred it because numbers alone don't win battles. Discipline does. Training does. Strategy does. The signal comes. Your horse surges forward. Arrows fill the air, not one or two, but thousands, until the sky itself seems to darken. Enemy formations begin to waver, but the real attack hasn't even started. Because something strange happens. Your entire line turns and begins to retreat. The enemy roars. They think you're running. They think they've already won, and that is exactly what your commanders want them to believe. The enemy gives chase. Their tight formation stretches and frays. Order breaks down as soldiers race ahead, hungry to finish the kill. Then the trap snaps shut. The retreat was fake. It was always fake. Fresh Mongol riders appear on the flanks, and arrows tear in from every direction. The pursuing army realizes, far too late, that it has galloped straight into an ambush. This trick becomes legendary across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Army after army falls for it, again and again and again. Because beating the Mongols was never just about surviving the fight. It was about surviving the deception. Their greatest victories often began long before the first arrow ever flew. And this is the part most people get completely wrong. They picture wild raiders charging blindly across the grass. The truth is far more frightening. The Mongols are organized, disciplined, and patient. They gather intelligence, coordinate their movements, and share information across enormous distances. Some messages cross hundreds of miles in a matter of days through a relay network called the Yam. Fresh horses wait at stations along the great routes. A messenger rides hard, swaps horses, and keeps going. The result is a communication system centuries ahead of its time. And because Mongol commanders simply know more than their enemies, they make better decisions. Their discipline runs all the way down. The entire army is built on a simple structure. Warriors grouped in tens. Those tens grouped into hundreds. The hundreds into thousands. Promotion comes from skill, not bloodline. It means a single order from the top can reach one rider on the far edge of the army without ever dissolving into chaos. Which leads to one uncomfortable truth. The deadliest weapon of the Mongol Empire wasn't the horse. It wasn't the bow. It wasn't even Genghis Khan. It was organization, the ability to move and coordinate tens of thousands of warriors across an entire continent made the Mongols unlike anything the world had ever seen. As the sun sinks toward the grass, the battle ends. Some of the enemy fled. Some surrendered. Many never left the field at all. Your horse grazes nearby. The wind moves across the steppe in long, slow waves. Tomorrow, you'll ride again, maybe toward another city, maybe toward another battlefield, maybe hundreds of miles farther from the place you were born, because that is the reality of being a Mongol horse archer. Your life is movement, your weapon is speed, your strength is discipline. And while your enemies build their walls, raise their armies, and prepare their defenses, almost all of them make the same fatal mistake. They assume they still have time. History shows they almost never did. Because by the time most people understood that the Mongols were coming, the Mongols had already arrived. If you made it this far, subscribe to Battle Lore for more stories from the warriors, armies, and empires that shaped our world. And remember, legends tell us who won. Battle Lore tells us how they lived.